a lot of war games were artless. Oh, as a note, before we get started, you're going to like this news. I don't typically do OSR hobby news, but I forgot the name of the miniature company already. Oh, Badger Games now has all the old Otherworld molds.
Yeah, I
Oh,
thought that
nice.
was. I thought they did that a while ago, though.
Oh, that's the first I've seen of it. So I was kind
Okay,
of
yeah. I like their pig-faced orcs and some of their other stuff. I was really disappointed at the Moloch statue because it ends up being about this big.
yeah,
Because even though it's 25 millimeter scale, it's not right. And I'm
right.
like, the dice tower that I have is far more to scale. You
But
know,
if it was to scale, it ended up being like that Tiamat model they made back in the 80s. Do you remember that giant doorstop?
yeah, yeah. It's the same thing with the dice tower. It's like it's like this freaking big. And I took it down because I wanted more books than a statue of Moloch in my freaking uh, in my
Yeah.
studio. I got it, a long time ago, and I didn't realize, and I'm like, yeah, I really probably shouldn't have bought that, but it was on the cover of the player's handbook, so
Yeah.
you
I,
know,
Well, let me put it this way: it's not exactly like you're, sacrificing drops of your son's blood into the chalice for the glory of Moloch, are you?
oops, oops.
oops.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Lol.
I'm a Christian.
Oh, that which not must be spoken.
I'm a Christian.
That's
I just
okay.
it was
Before
just member berries and nostalgia, and you see it and you're like, oh my gosh, I've actually got it that scenario placed in my D&D world, and it's just a matter of time before the players get there. But
they're gonna love it.
yeah, who doesn't like fighting
But I'm just
lizards?
gonna go. It's all right sacrificing blood. Before the stream, I huffed my great grandmother's ashes.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't actually do that.
we know, but it's still the voice is funny. But
Thank you.
yeah, I like John, but I mean,
He,
uh,
he burnt me out fast. So I unfollowed and unsubscribed. I was like, you know what? This villain arc irritates me to the point that you're just another pompous, condescending prick on the internet. I deal with it.
he,
I
he was
got
supposed
health
to
issues.
he was supposed to send me a copy
Okay.
PDF of one of his games to review, and he blew me off. And then I realized, oh, it's a dice pool game. I would have just
Nice. Cool.
me too. It's pointless. I mean, you need your dice, but I don't need a hefty bag full of them. As a matter of fact, I just saw some really cool dice that I do need. They're the random dungeon hallway room generators.
Yeah.
Those, and I'm like, oh yeah, I could definitely use those like almost every other game, if not every game.
I could have a whole rant on that stuff, but how the uber randomness destroys can be too much,
Right.
and too much crunch can destroy. Two rules lock can destroy too much. Anything in excess destroys.
Absolutely.
And even the dice, because I like the geomorphs and stuff, they're cool, but it ends up being the same rooms over and over, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So it's like an endless loop of meh.
Yeah.
But all right, let's get on it.
Yeah. Let me pull up the PDF because I didn't do that last time.
Before we do,
Sure.
I need to mention something that I think I made a mistake of a few episodes back. I said that Jim Ward never read Starship or Nonstop, but he did read Orphans of the Sky. And looking into that, it was probably the other way around. He may not have read Orphans of the Sky, but he probably read Starship.
Oh.
I'm not even familiar with any of those books. Send me links.
That is completely okay. It's just, it always irks me a little bit when the guy online makes a very easily correctable mistake, and then I make an easily correctable mistake.
I do it all the time, dude.
Maybe I didn't even make a
that
mistake in
last
this
issue and this issue. I had the numbers mixed up for like our last 3 episodes.
Oh, wow.
So the cover,
Just for being human, I guess.
the
Yes,
cover
I like it.
clearly based on the gigantic freaking story that took me the 90% of the reading of this
10
issue.
pages out of 32.
Yes, a full
And it was cute, but that's it. I'm not looking forward
You
to
have
reading
to
more of it.
really... You
I
really have to like folksy.
Yeah.
I read half of it, to be honest, and I'll talk about that when we get to the story. I read half of it, and I will finish
I
the whole thing when I read the next dragon.
likewise.
I
Because believe it or not, this episode actually snuck up on me a little bit, so I'm like, uh-oh, well that's okay, I'll just flip through. How long are you again? 10 pages.
Yeah,
Oh
me
boy.
too. Me
Yeah, and at that font size and whatnot, it
too.
would probably be 40 pages of a paperback.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and it stuck up on me too, Tanner. I mean, I had all this extra time this last week, and I have been detoxing from the internet. I've been online less, making fewer videos, and doing a lot of other stuff. But it's just like, where'd the time go?
I will say this: it is a very charming story.
Yeah.
It's a very sweet story. I probably would have loved. Actually, this is damning by faint praise. I would have loved it as a kid. I mean, more that it would really appeal to the child in us. But
Really?
we're here to review a magazine. We gotta
Right.
Yeah.
get
Well,
our
Well,
game
I
on.
don't know about you guys, but whenever there's a story like that, I go through the rest of the magazine, then I come back to the article. Or
yeah,
the,
Mhm.
yeah. We'll get to it in a minute. I think it's very Vincent Pricey. I thought when I looked at that image, just like, is that an homage to Vincent Price? Because I dig it.
really, I
Very
thought it was
likely.
more what the heck, Narnia like.
Oh yeah, I definitely see it.
But the image, the dude, kind of.
Sure.
I saw him as very old Southern gentleman, but absolutely, I could see both Narnia and Vincent Price.
Vincent Price in Narnia. The world will never be the same.
If only. Hey,
So
between them nesty.
so the first page, uh, got to show it off. I do in fact have it right here.
Is it worth the shit?
I don't know. I bought it
Probably used to
decades.
be.
I mean, it's in like mint condition, and it comes with a lot of stuff. And I was reading the blurb for the. Oh my god, this is so
Star Prep?
clean. Yeah, it comes with a bunch of maps and charts and just all kinds of crap. And I'm
Indeed.
like, I got to read this. I mean, what it says you can do in it. I'm like, really? Why
It's
haven't I
Proto
been playing
Traveler.
the crap? Oh, and there's counters
I get
here.
Empire again, but Star Empires was cool. If I can find
Yeah,
out death, I'll read it. But I'm
it's
gonna try to get
tragic
Star
that,
Empire.
like, people always say Metamorphosis Alpha was the first science fiction role playing game, or Empire of the Pearl Thrones, and it's really Star Probe. The problem
I've
is,
got that one too.
indeed, is that Star Probe, Star Empire, and there was going to be a third Star game, which they're finally going to release 50 years later, is that it came from um uh, Arneson's side of the gaming world. One of his buddies made that game. So even though TSR wanted to hype it up with him and Gygax bucking heads, they
Oh,
said nuts to this
check.
and they cut the line.
Does that look familiar?
Oh, it does, it does. And speaking of, we're going to get into Gamma World later this issue, but
Yep. I'm gonna have to read this. I was getting ready to reread Men and Magic because I literally once upon a time went through the back pages and just started buying up all the old stuff. I think I have War of Wizards,
nice.
Chainmail's on the way, Swords and Spells, Greyhawk, Demigod, blah blah blah, Petal Throne, Star Probe. I do not have Battle of Five Armies, Lankbar, or Tractics. Otherwise, my collection is almost complete, at least
Sure.
one way or another. But yeah, it's just if I had seen this back then, oh my god, I would have been all over it.
Mhm. Yeah, you can only imagine how history would be different if TSR had maybe kept things amicable between Dave and Gary and Dave and Tim Kask, honestly,
Mm.
and kept pushing Star Empires and Star Probe and the third one,
Well,
which it is,
came
and
in,
thankfully this is going to resurface.
yeah, I think you're going to see the hobby fracturize a lot coming up as people rediscover old things,
Yep.
and you're going to see a return to wargaming, like classic wargaming
Oh,
again.
we're already there.
Oh god,
Like,
I hope so.
Do you think Games Workshop imploding is going to help that or hurt it?
yes, help.
Oh
It's
yeah,
going to help so
absolutely.
much because so much stuff used is going to be not as expensive, or there's going to be a lot more call for like reprint models from third parties, or 3D printing is going to explode even more than it
Oh my
has.
god, there's
I
so much.
miss the day of the 18-page skirmisher rules pamphlets.
That's going to
Well,
come back big
you
time.
know, there's a I did a video beginning of the week, the very first commercially available module,
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty good.
and it did really good. And that's to me an indicator. In addition to things like the Judges Guild book I bought that cost me, it books for $100 and volume two books for $300, and I found the original actual, supposedly the oldest module, but it wasn't commercially available until recently. The Lost Dungeons of Tannisborg. You ever heard of that?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I
I,
played the first room of that, and our party got wiped by kobolds.
I never heard of it. I never heard of it, and it's available relatively cheap in some reprints. But then the hardback version is 400 bones,
Right.
$400 for a book. And it's hard to find, which means there is this resurgence of delving into the oldest of the old, and I don't feel so alone or so weird doing it because I'm seeing it everywhere with anybody who's serious about this, who really cares, not just the historians, but people who want to, get the feel of what it was like. So this, Dragon Magazine, with as easy as it is to get for guys like us and to go through it and start to absorb what it must have felt like. I think there's going to be a huge resurgence of nostalgia at the very least.
Well, I think it's like honing your craft or becoming a better DM. I always tell people if you want to understand how a game developed, this game developer, this hobby developer, you go back and you go in order and you see how it changed and you see how the thoughts were. In the same way with media, like the appendix in, I think is lacking because it's just text. When these guys absorbed other forms of media, the serial, B movies,
Pulp
the
Fiction.
generation of the drive-in, right? The
Comics,
cheesy
lots of
drive-in
comics.
stuff,
Mhm.
all right? So, and I think another thing, maybe it'll help some people with their damn shitty vocabulary. Explain.
Oh
You
yeah.
think?
I hope. I can only hope. You see these TikTok videos of these ladies, these girls who are suing their colleges because they're technically an adult and they're fucking illiterate, right?
Yeah, I saw that video a while back
Hmm.
of that girl who works somewhere and can't spell.
I'm like,
Dear,
what the fuck?
dear God, how do you not know how to spell?
The
Yeah,
school
I hop
systems.
back and forth between old English spelling and modern spelling, which drives spell correct crazy. But it's from what I read. It's what I learned to read from.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, the diction has just evolved the last 50 years, and it's heartbreaking that the school systems are their students. It's very sad.
When you hear people use the word axe instead of ask and nobody corrects it, they freaking hate that.
Word on ebonics. That's a subculture. From a sociological view, this is what happened. I don't want to get into that today.
Fair enough.
Oh, don't worry, we know you're piss and vinegar. You're like that every day anyway.
But I
And
read
speaking of
the.
development, you first.
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
Oh my God.
I was just gonna say, speaking of development, look at the first article after the Dragon Rumbles, which hypes up some stuff from Tom Wam and Fritz Leiber. Planes, the concept of spatial, temporal, and physical relationships in D&D.
Yeah, let's get ready to introduce that. This is the proto sketching of your manual of the planes right
Yep.
here. That is the same map. That never changed really.
In color. Well, it changed in 4th and 5th a little bit, but I mean, they're 4th and 5th.
They don't count.
Well, they do. We just
So
pushed it
basically,
back.
it never changed.
We're going to start with 2E. So 3, 4.
Fair enough. But yeah, interesting note is that Gary is talking about, going forward, I will uh, backwards engineer this into each of my games. It has not been tested fully. More updates to come. And pretty much laying out, um, like in the earliest days of Dungeons and Dragons, the idea is effectively everyone's playing a big 4X game where, Dave's got his game, Gary's got his game, and each of us has their game, and the adventurers are all living in the same world to some degree.
To some degree.
And Yes, and this is pretty much saying, oh no, there are a million, silver spheres out there floating in the ether, and here's what the ether looks like.
Yeah. And this is towards a higher end level play. If you're plane traveling at lower levels, up until the introduction of Sigil, where it made scrubs in the outer plane, which was a dumb idea, they it's an in game type deal. You don't travel planes if you're a low level wizard or a low level party because you will die horrible deaths.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like about this was the +1 to 3. It has to be +2. If it's +2, it's on two different dimensions or
Right.
planes.
I don't like that
Shut
concept.
the fuck up. That's
Did they
retarded.
drop that?
They all well no actually later on the pluses of weapons get weaker if they're made on the prime material. The further they go away from the prime, the magic weakens and vice
Yeah, the Sword of
versa.
the Plains in the Unearthed Arcana.
You could have like a +0 sword, and then when you get to the abyss, you find out you have this weird +4 weapon that's only really great in the lower planes. Blah blah blah. No, not a lot of people really did that. It's explained more in the manual planes, I think, in depth.
Yeah.
No one really did it.
I hated it.
Standard.
Never use it. Never will use it. It's retarded.
It's overcomplicated.
It's exactly. It's overcomplicated, and it should literally be sometimes the opposite of that. Uh, Especially if it's a magic weapon, like blessed or created by your deity. Uh, it just seems like another way to make things harder because you go into hell or something like that, and suddenly your holy avenger is only +1. What? No,
Exactly.
no. It should be like
Yeah, that's a
+12
bit of a
now.
loaf.
It's say +5. I like having
Something that I
a
did like from the
baseline to
article, they
work.
contrast.
Yeah, you need that baseline. Otherwise, it gets overcomplicated. That means
Something I
that
did
some of
like in the
those,
article.
yeah, that the forks used by all the bearded devils, if they get to the prime, should be way more powerful. Going by that logic, right? It was forged and crafted in the nether realms.
Something I
Get to the prime, it should be double. So that plus in there, magical, is now like a plus whatever, and just demolishing stuff. I think demons and devils needed a boost.
Right, right. You shouldn't even be fighting demons and devils until to a certain extent until you're in the end game to begin with. I mean, after that, where do you go? Okay, well, we've kicked all kinds of pit fiend ass. Now what?
Yeah, the pit fiend should not be present without his army.
indeed.
Yep.
Yeah,
So the
I'm
next thing
actually
is
a
develop.
slightly different mind when it comes to. Can you guys hear me?
it's a delay. It's all it
I'm
is.
actually of a slightly different mind when it comes to planes. Yes, the big planar travel should be later levels, although I'm open to sprinkles of planar stuff. So, like, if you're dealing with a shady cult in the backwoods, and a little imp is kind of serving as like the spokesman and the used car salesman, if you would,
Mhm.
then some stuff from the abyss can carry over into his temple, and of course, you're gonna want some +1 weapons so you can take down that imp.
Right,
Sort of a taste
making
of
a,
what you're gonna deal with later. Yeah.
you're making a set piece location that is weakening the bonds
Yeah.
between dimensions, so you can get more demons in. I get
Sure.
that. But lower levels, you should
And that's
only
great with fairies.
be ethereal or astral planes and maybe elemental planes. But if you're a low level party and you find yourself on an elemental plane unprepared, you're doomed. You're going to cook.
Yep.
You're in the plane of fire. Some freak's going to find you and make you house servant. House servant Bob. If you leave the house, you're going to incinerate, guy.
Pretty much.
hmm
So the next
Something I do
article-
like.
Oh,
as-
sorry. Go
Well,
ahead.
hold on a sec. I'm almost done. It's something I appreciate is that it also mentions not just magical but also technological ways to travel the planes.
Yeah.
And I'm amused by this because Geary would attempt this again some years later in Dangerous Journeys, but the line failed before they actually got to the sci-fi supplement.
Huh.
I always like doing natural.
You got your Stargates and sliders. Sure, why not?
A hinge or a fairy gates. I put fairy gates in my BX and OSD games where fairies and elves could actually use these to travel great distances at twilight or at the full moon or whatever. You have that locations. Why not have a place that's got a foul reputation that actually has a connection to the abyss or the these nether realms, and if you go there at a certain time and you're unlucky, you slip between the realms. That's a good hook or adventure path you can play with. It's fun, but at low levels, everything on the plains is more dangerous, or at least requires magical weapons to hurt. So if you're a low level party without magical weapons and you find yourself displaced, you're at a huge disadvantage.
Yeah.
Magic items are the great
There's plenty of mundane crap to keep your party busy at low level.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. For sure.
It's 90%. The 90% of the game seems geared in that direction, anyways. Especially in the current environment where no one ever gets to high level. So
Successions.
Well, that's not exactly through organic means, now is it?
That's why the game I'm working on is literally imagine starting a game where you start out as a 10th level character right off the bat.
I'm doing that for an Against the Giants game, and I'm not as invested in the character. That's how I look at it. If I don't start first and struggle, I'm not invested. It's a throwaway because I know the replacement's going to be higher level too.
I think I found a way around making people, I mean, you got to be, craving that anyways. But I think I've got some ways to keep people invested in a game like that.
Yeah, fair. All right, the development of towns in D&D.
Raven has mentioned she's built a real henge.
Oh, hey, Raven. Sorry, I can't see the chat because I'm actually looking at the article. And I was having internet problems all morning. I was just barely able to get on, like at the last, what was there, like 4 minutes before the show? Oh, crap. My
I think, personally, the development of towns in D&D here is probably the crown jewel of this issue, which is very impressive because there's a gem update.
Well, the gem update's kind of fun, but this goes in a little bit more detail, and it goes into the different things you'll have in there. But like he says, I use a 3 foot by 2 foot sheet divided into 1 inch squares. Those are large towns, man. That's a big town.
Yeah, I was just looking at. I was just looking at a pad of graph paper that size at Hobby Lobby, and I'm like, yeah, I need to get one of these.
Yeah, that's why I make my castles and stuff.
No more taping my mega dungeons together.
We're on digital now. We put it online mainly, but I do miss down, and it's like a Zen thing. You sit down and you start drawing, and it's a. I got a big hex one, and it's made for architects. It's an architect's pad. So you want a quadded architect pad, and that's where you get them at.
Yeah, there's definitely a magic to those squares and hexagons. Something that's brought up here by Mr. Let's get his name again. Tony Watson. I want to say I've heard that name before because I remember that one.
No, me neither.
Yeah,
the writer of the article.
He kind of goes into how even early on people were kind of skimming on towns compared to dungeon and wilderness, and while it's not universal, there are definitely times where players don't remember the name of McTown.
Yeah, I'm so guilty of that. In every game I've played in the last 2 years, I could not name one single town or village, castle, anything.
I do know that I do try to go of my way to make sure that even, a town in passing has 1 or 2 memorable moments or distinct names. Yeah. So, but personally, what I'd like to try in a campaign for Gamma World coming up or D&D is like name towns after famous fantasy figures. So like the Free City Frazetta or
that's a great idea.
Easter egg. Yeah, Easter egg everything is fun.
Oh, precisely. I mean, and it's great if you're like the player who knows the obscure author or artist you're referring to, and you're like, someone else gets it. Yes. But
I might have to steal that idea from you, Tanner, for my
please
Box
take it. These ideas are to share. You on the other end of the screen, use all of this or none of this to your heart's content.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I actually really like the town building advice here. Stuff like,
I wish they would have put it in the Dungeon Master's Guide, to be honest.
Oh, and funny you should mention that. Especially reading the section on places you should head if you have a seedier part of town. I'm like, yep, this
Yep.
absolutely ended up in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Because if you remember, the city encounters, there are undead at night, there are demons at night, there
Yep.
are hookers, there are crooks,
Same
there
thing.
are. Mhm.
Yeah, I do think there's a thing they recommend in here that I got flack for, and that is segregating the demi-humans to a certain inn or something. I've always
Really?
well, yeah, you have the equality at all costs people. It's been beat into them since birth, right?
If they don't like the idea of an inn catering to non-humans, they're absolutely going to hate the crack at liberated women and children that's in here.
I know,
Right.
right?
Right. I saw that.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm
and even
sorry.
then, clearly he's being tongue in cheek. Like this guy does not have hate in his heart.
I think the gold cost for everything that they recommend is a little high, in my opinion.
Yeah, a gold for a shave. Come on, guys.
I know, right? A gold piece is like $5. Well,
I do like most of these, though. I do have to raise an eyebrow at Ye Olde Pawn Shop, where
you'll punch out.
like, don't get me wrong, I like the idea. It sells a bit of everything, but there's a 1 in 6 chance this is gonna falter.
Yeah.
So is it worth it? But
Yeah, the same
and I'm
with
certain
the
there's a
same with
story.
the down at the diagonal from that the soothsayer.
There. Yeah.
Yeah, one in whatever chance of it.
I would actually have that here using like the divination spell.
Yeah.
So it's a hint system effectively, and I just get to roleplay a Romani fortune teller with a thick accent.
The carrot. It's the carrot. This is how you steal your party. You just tell them what they want to hear.
Some two other things I'll notice that's interesting is that given the mention of like pirate quarters and ships and stuff, part of me wonders if the ideal D&D town is not a forest town or a plains town, but like a seaside sailor town.
Oh, absolutely. Or
just
something on an island.
Mm-hmm.
The largest settlements in all history are ports.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So definitely next campaign have a port city. And the other is that while this is very proto AD&D, I'm very tickled pink by some OD&D-isms. Like it mentions a NPC party coming back with a subdued dragon, and it uses hobbits as opposed to halflings.
The original starter town, the oldest one that's named, is probably Port Town, isn't it?
I don't.
Which port town? Like from the home spot?
From the box. Because you have the Ruined Wizard's Tower is outside Port Town, and they expand Port Town later on. But it actually
what box set?
It's a red
box set. The Holmes box set. The one with the dragon and the knight and the wizard on it.
Oh yeah, I've got that one. It's been so long since I've looked at that. Because I actually bought that after I've been playing AD&D for like a year, and I'm like, "What? This is baby D&D. What the hell?"
The Ruined Tower, the one that had the Ruined Tower as opposed to Alina as a starter adventure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the one with Alina does not have a town that's named. The other one did. Port Town. Just made me think of that. We're talking about towns, and I think that's the first D&D town that's named in a product off the top of my head.
Was there a town in Against the Giants? And there's probably towns in the tournament modules at least.
No, because you go to the capital. You go to the capital city in the Giants. You start out being summoned to go send off kill giants.
Mm-hmm.
But
one final note on this article is that it's kind of funny that a lot of people D&D is like the Clue movie, where even though it's absolutely not for children, tons of us got into it when we were like 8, 9, 10. Because this article here even mentions for the seedier part, no thieves' quarters would be complete without a brothel.
That's right.
Imagine being 10, 12 years old and asking your mom and dad, "What's a brothel?"
And then of course along comes the Satanic Panic, and now they've got an excuse to tear that out of your hands.
I really love the idea of the surgeon. For a fee of 25 gold, the doctor will attempt to cure 1 to 6 wound points. Wound points? You mean hit points? 50% chance of success, etc. That's why I love the healer NPC in the Dragon magazine later on. it didn't all have to be magic. If you throw things like this in there, which I do because I don't like giving or selling extra heal or healing potions in my game.
Yeah, I
Uh,
hate small magic. I hate the whole
in
concept.
one year of playing, they have found less than 10 healing potions.
Hmm.
Mm,
Something I like as well underneath the search is the library, so you've got somewhere to put your sages.
mhm.
Yeah, and he did a really good job on highlighting, giving your NPCs personality,
Yeah,
creating an NPC notebook for things which I've got right here for my game. You got to do this. You don't have to do a lot of work, but you do have to do some paperwork, and that's part of being the DM. If you don't want to do the paperwork, run a fighter.
yeah. I've cut back on the town stuff in my campaigns just to get them moving.
Hmm.
People get distracted too easy.
Yeah. Um. So, shall we take care of the elephant in the room,
Oh,
Oh
the friends and
God.
family.
or shall we do that at the end?
We got
No,
to do,
let's knock it out now so we can go
Okay.
back to having fun.
but you
Because I assure you, this is a good story. It's just long.
I wish it was over when the kid beat the Crumbo kid and just call it a day.
That
yeah,
is where I stopped for that last night, so I will be continuing on if I don't forget.
Yeah,
I,
it gets really kind of convoluted, in my opinion. Like I said, it was a cute story. It would make for a great Hallmark Christmas movie if you
yeah.
stopped it right about there and said, "Okay, the end."
Did
But
you
now
get
we're going to
any
get
vibes? I got 1950s vibes for the town.
Yes, I was actually kind of wondering, is this the 70s, the 50s,
oh,
1910? Something I
absolutely the
appreciate is
'50s.
that
Really?
it's
Not even the '60s or '70s. Totally '50s.
definitely the
Uh,
old world.
If this was a sitcom, I would watch it.
Yeah, what I was reading through this thinking of is this is a bit like the city. It's a little bit like the kind of show Sid and Marty Krofft would make, and I know that we're all very big fans of them.
sure, sure, I can see that.
I don't know if it's goofy.
I was getting more of a Christmas story vibe from it, with the
Definitely saw a
snow.
Christmas story here. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, and I might be getting the story wrong, but I know Leigh Brackett wrote a short story about a carnival where the various people there had supernatural powers, and this is not quite the same thing, but I was getting a similar vibe. And given how Otto Fisher, who, for those who are not yet aware, was good friends with a certain man named Fritz Lieber and was the inspiration for Fafhrd.
Did
So
not know
this is
that.
absolutely the Fafhrdian authorial voice here. What
Gotcha.
I was really getting
So
flashbacks of was Harold Chase stories from Unknown.
not familiar with that.
Yeah,
Um,
Thrasher was the guy helped with the guy who wrote this story is good buddies with Fritz Lieber and helped with the New Harn stuff.
mhm.
No, I could see that with, like I said, with the snow, but it's just it's really long and it's going to continue. Oh my god!
Yeah, it's in two. It's in two of them.
This is really something that needs to be in like a 60-page, full color illustrated, watercolor, hardback children's book.
But if you want to make a modern setting with magic, these are good character studies.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Also, I noticed in the art that this kids especially. Not sure I would have called a little girl gay, maybe Joy, but
It
whatever.
was a more
Uh,
popular name in the past. I have a
I
stepmother
get
named Gary, actually.
fair
It's
enough.
fun.
I do notice that the Finzer family have more pointed ears, so maybe these are modern half elves. Maybe they got some fairy in the bloodline.
I
Ah,
don't know, but I definitely recognize the artist. I don't know what from where. No, I know now. Top Secret.
really?
Yep,
I can see that.
yep, absolutely.
Is the writer the same as the artist? Because it just
Oh
says
no, different person.
I can look it up right now.
Otto.
Yes. I'm gonna say something kind of unpopular because we've been kind of bagging on the story, much like Crumbo bags on one of the kids here.
It's a good story.
Um,
It's just long.
I I think I actually prefer this to most of the Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser stuff I've read.
Oh,
I
oh,
know that's a crime.
friend.
I
All
know
right,
that's
I'm
a
gonna
verbal
subscribe.
crime. It's
Rowan.
just
I
like
love
don't get me
you.
wrong. There's great stuff in the Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser stories. Like how like stars are at once spouts of water, but also different spheres and the swashbuckle and all that. But it's so bulkily written. It's so thickly written, and I can read a paragraph 3 times and not know what just happened.
Yeah, this
And
is
then
going to be
here,
a short video because this song, I mean, this story takes up so much of the book, of
indeed,
the magazine. It's just crazy.
this may also be damning by faint praise, which is not the intent here. I love the first slice of the story where it's kind of going over, how people say nonsense to magic, but everyone's got like a lucky rabbit's foot or a special coin, and how there used to be a lot of magic back in the day, but everyone kept, demanding help from them, and over time the wizards just kind of disappeared because they didn't want to deal with this. It's like Harry Potter, but actually well written. Man,
Yeah.
I'm just firing all kinds of nukes, which is fitting because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
vertical.
I'm still salty about the Fritz Lieber.
I'm sorry, like his world is great. I just don't love his stuff. If I
He's
tried his sci-fi
literally
stuff, I'd probably like it more.
Fafhrd and Grey Mouse are literally probably my favorite closest to
Really?
me.
Beats out Howard?
Okay, it was one of you that was the favorite. Then I shouldn't have mentioned that. Then
No,
I,
no, it's cool. Don't
I
say
don't
that.
think I have a favorite
Steve,
anymore. It's like musicians. I have no favorite artists. I have no favorite anything. It's just things I like, but I don't put them above each other hardly more. But I can make a top 5 for movies and things based on the stuff I watched the
I mean,
most.
Zelazny's my favorite author because we were friends. But when it comes to like strict D&D, Fafhrd and Grey Mouser is the closest thing to what I've experienced.
oh, absolutely. Like the scene in Jewels in the Tower where they're like pulling out like the rope, the block and tackle, the little spikes, the hammer. I'm like, yep, absolutely.
I honestly believe that those two characters are why we have the thief that we do.
Him,
I think that's
Kugel,
second stated.
bit of Conan, definitely Jack of Shadows, but yes, Grey Mouser is the big linchpin.
You've actually read that?
Read what? Which one?
I've
Jack of
actually written an article.
Jack of Shadows is literally my
We
favorite.
across it.
I've not read Jack of Shadows yet. I am looking for it.
Ooh.
Like Bracket and St. Clair. I look for the stuff on Appendixen in my book at my local bookstores. They don't have them. I'm like, come on, guys! It's been how many years? We're puzzling
Let
up.
me tell you a quick story. My brother and I went to the library. I found that book. I didn't have a library card. He did. He
Continue.
had the library card, so I said, "Hey, get this book for me." I finished reading it. I immediately started rereading it again that very instant, and I never returned the book.
Oh wow! Did you get banned from the
But at
library?
one time, the entire
Because of my library card. And my brother and I were not on good terms. But I still have it to this day. Favorite book of all time.
Nice.
Just,
If you ever want to
and
roast my favorite author, well, one of my favorite authors at least, Tanith Lee, have at her.
really, never
Yeah.
read anything, so I can't.
But where am I going with this one? Yeah, I've not read Jack of Shadows, but I did read the short story that he did as a prequel in that graphic novel collection he did.
Yeah, I actually had him autograph that and a copy.
Nice.
I had him autograph that and my copy of The Hand of Oberon because that was the book my mom was reading at the time. And I normally don't even talk about that book. That's how much I love it because I don't want anybody reading it.
Nice.
Yeah, I know I'm a dick.
Well, I mean, no, it's not a dick. I mean, if you value it that much, that's
Yeah, I love
okay.
that book.
But yeah, what's another fancy author I'm like all over? Just author in general. Probably the guy who wrote Don Quixote, Cervantes.
Do I have a copy? I think I have a copy of that. Like a
Definitely.
really old copy of that.
You guys will either love this, hate this, or love hate this. Board of the Rings by
The Harvard
Penny and Beard.
Lampoon. That's
Yep.
actually what got me to read Lord of the Rings. I read the very first page, the intro, and I'm like, as a teenage boy, if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. I'm like,
yeah.
oh my god, I
Do
want
you
this.
like what you doth see?
Yes. I had my son read that. Older kid than I am, and he like literally practically threw it at me and stormed out of the room. He's
Um,
such a prude. Oh my god!
well, he's a Zoomer. What are you expecting?
It is.
All joking aside, though, it's funny to read. Well, I mean, it's just funny in general, but to read Lord of the Rings after watching either the Bakshi adaptation or the Jackson adaptation, because those movies are as much, if not more so, adaptations of Lord of the Rings as Lord of the Rings. Because
Dude, I
short of
totally
Tom
agree.
Adreno, it follows the
Right?
exact path of Lord of the Rings, which had to cut a lot of stuff.
I literally, like I said, I read Lord of the Rings before I read any Tolkien, and so the whole time I'm reading Tolkien, my mind's going back to Lord of the Rings.
I Not for every campaign, but I would love to play in one or two campaigns where halflings and hobbits are replaced by bogies.
Uh huh.
And so you've got these little bogey frontier towns, which are pretty much powder kegs of corruption, beating up small animals.
And debauchery.
Yep, and just eating like way more food than is required before throwing it up.
Gluttony Town. There you go.
Just absolutely wretched creatures.
But yeah, I'm certain this is the same art or one of the artists from Top Secret. Hey, was anybody able to find out who this artist was?
No, I didn't really look it up.
I'll
It's
take a look
either,
myself.
it either gives credit in the very front of the magazine, or it's just the staff.
I'm gonna
So it's saying staff artists are Sutherland and Wham for this, and the cover's by Bill Hannon. So
Okay, I think it's Sutherland. Let me pull out my Top Secret right here real quick because it's so indicative.
Hannon.
Oh, okay. You see that image?
Yeah. Well, I think it's cleaner.
Yeah, it is. Or Jeff D. That's Jeff D.
Yeah.
That could be Jeff D. artwork though.
I
Uh,
want to say it's
Not
just
credited.
yeah. His
It's not
characters have
Earl
that.
Lewis. It's not Sutherland.
It's got to be Ham. I mean, it's got to be Wham.
No, that's definitely not Tom Long.
Staff artist for this
I think that's
magazine,
Pete. I
and the
think that's
cover is done by Bill Hannon, who actually signs it. Nothing in that signed, therefore it has to be a staff artist, either Sutherland or Wham. And since it's not Sutherland style, it'd be Wham.
Let me see if how do you spell the name?
Wham. Tom Wham. That's a
Okay,
cool.
not that's not.
Yeah, even Eldrad, who should really hop in, he's mentioning yes, that is absolutely Jeff D.
He's not
His
credited.
character.
That's what I think too. It looks like Jeff D artwork,
hmm
just like I said
Um,
early. Top Secret didn't come out for another year or two, I think.
Still
and Beat
77 in this issue.
is off.
Yeah.
It's still 77.
How I Jeff D. How I love his art and want to strangle the man. Still Game
Yeah.
World, right?
If we pass up the uh, ad, let's see.
Yeah,
Oh my God, this thing just goes on and on and on and on forever.
it does.
As
Oh,
the
Space
song
Marines.
goes.
I'll let you know when it arrives.
Awesome.
It looks like a blast. $5 from Fantac Games, never to be heard from again, as far as I know.
Probably.
No.
They probably put out some small stuff you never heard of.
Yeah,
That never got
I'll do the research. Yeah, God, that's so Jeff D artwork.
Yeah. I read through this introduction to Gamma World and I really liked it, but what really got me is the fourth paragraph. And it was like, is this prophecy?
Yes. Well, here's the thing you gotta understand about science fiction that a lot of people get wrong, even dedicated fans of the genre. People look at old sci-fi, and if they're not scoffing at, the cyberpunk hellscape of 1994, they're being like, wow, this book totally predicted this problem we're dealing with. It's still relevant. And it's like, oh, no. It's not that it predicted the problem, it's that it saw what was going on today and then
These are
exaggerated that in the future.
things. These are ongoing things in humanity. It's easy to predict once you just understand people, and then you're happy about people, and then you're equally disgusted.
Yeah.
So, for those who've not read this, and you absolutely should, because this is absolutely from the first edition of Gamma World. And I'd like to point out, there's no artwork here beyond just sneak preview. This could be like a series of articles. This could be a game. People didn't know right away.
Yep.
Imagine not having any art or context to Gamma World, and it talks about mankind's rise, how we learn better tools, and a couple hundred years from now, we have violated Earth's beauty, and we have solved poverty and hunger, and then we turn to philosophical debates, and then we turn to ideology, and then
Yep.
simple disagreement becomes argument, and argument becomes violence,
And
and
then
then
we
there's
get
a gassing where hundreds of people die, including the innocent, and then this happens, and this happens, and then the apocalypse. I must be one of the only people who actually likes the concept of the apocalypse. War groups say, "Stop this right now, or we're going to nuke all of you." And of course, they don't listen. Nuke. They discover the base. Nuke back. The seas land crumbles. The sea boil, and somehow man survives.
yep. Yeah, I actually having reread this, I can't wait to run a Gamma World game
You can see
because I
why
never.
I'm harping on that.
Have you ever read the Horse Clans?
I do own a couple of the books, and I've at least started the first one. And what really struck me is the immortal superhuman, I should say.
Milo Moray.
Yes, Milo Moray, in Memento Mori, seeing a dying man and being like, "Man, 600 years back, we could have given him tetanus and saved his life." And I'm like, "Damn, that's the real horror of the apocalypse right there."
Yeah.
No
Without
antibiotics.
and your basic pharmaceuticals,
Yep.
most people don't know how to make penicillin, and it's not even that hard.
Right.
It's like we always think, "Oh shoot, we're not going to have our creature comforts. We're not going to bathe as often. We're not going to have as good food." It's the medicines that's going to kill you, or the lack.
Well, that and apparently the toilet paper.
Yes. Well, dude.
You can just use leaves as long as it's not poison ivy. I mean more like the stuff that if your life or death depends on it,
Infection and cholera. If you're guilty, and you have a certain faction of society that when all these creature comforts are off, they're simply going to self-delete.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, they're going to sit down and die.
Yep.
They're pitiful.
Well, like that dog that's still waiting for the master to come home.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's tragic.
Yeah, well, for the dogs, not for the people.
Oh, that was a given, sir.
Yeah, but the thing preview for Gamma World hypes it up pretty good, gives you a good idea what you're going to get, and
Kind of. Here's the thing.
And you know what? I never used to really think about the ancient peoples that would survive. You know, like the group the Apocalypse, or like in Planet of the Apes, the mutants, and getting the Planet of the Apes game coming any minute now. I'm really thinking more about having those secret societies be a thing.
Mhm.
You know,
Cryptic
some
alliances,
sort of
yes.
survivors.
And yes,
but-
Eldrad, I would love to. You first, sorry.
Oh, I just I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, secret societies, twisted weirdos from the past. Got to do it. Got to do it.
But yes, Mr. Eldrad, either playing in Shadow and Sun's game or even running it myself, I would love to throw down with some Gamma World. Although I should mention, remember when I said there was no artwork or indication of what this was? And this is not a slag at Gamma World at all. When you crack open the book itself, especially the first edition book, what you find is that rather than this like harsh, gnarly, grim tale survival, although it is still very deadly, you find flying hippopotamus monsters.
Yeah.
And you find, very whimsical, darkly
Talking
amusing science
plant.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Oh, I should mention,
Stuff,
in the book itself, at the bottom of this article here, is a talking carnivorous plant with a book. So the historian we've been talking to is a plant. So
Yeah, it's very much got a excuse me, an acidic feel to it. You know, as an LSD.
grungy, sludgy, I get you.
The whole original Gamma World, and later on, it doesn't detract from that much ever. It's still got
Yeah.
that weird hallucinogenic sort of feel to it.
Indeed. Like, there are
which-
people who do not love the sillier side of Gamma World or the more whimsical side of Gamma World, and for me, that's part of the joy, the sort of pre-Mad Max apocalypse, where, like, if you think about this, shows like The Bionic Woman and Land of the Lost we mentioned earlier, that was wrapping up, and then the short-lived Logan's Run TV show's coming out.
Mhm.
I want to say Fantastic Journey, but I know that's not right. The one where they're traveling through time and space and there's an Atlantean, that's coming out, so people are kind of primed for more of a looser, more psychedelic, as you put it.
Those were already, I think, mid 70s. This is 77, so a lot of the Man from Atlantis stuff are already canceled by this time, I think.
Pardon me.
Tunnel
But
Mind.
yeah, sort of this more fantastical science fiction. People were primed for that. People understood what this was going for.
The
But
it's
yeah,
I dig it. And any of your articles for Metamorphosis Alpha mutations work just fine in Gamma World. I mean, it's permanent same
oh
system.
yeah,
Look at it.
oh yeah. Like I know if I'm running it, I'll definitely be adding in the Metamorphosis Alpha monsters to the Gamma World charts and tables. Which, granted, stuff's mutating differently on the Warden, but like Wolfoids and Blarn and stuff like that, they're so iconic that they should be in Jim Ward's other game.
Yeah, anybody noticed that here at the very end of the Gamma World article, coming in the dragon number 9 and coming in number 11, but they have no idea what's coming in number 10?
Probably. Or it's already done.
I think they hyped up some stuff in the start of the magazine, but they gotta keep it a mystery. I also love this TD9, the dragon, but in 11 it's number 11.
Yeah. Yeah, but you get stories completed, so like the Libra one, they have it, and when you get a story, you've already told them what issue it's going to begin. So you're already contractually obligated to do stuff like that. So, and I think that's going to be one of the first, you're going to start seeing the board games. Did you guys actually play the board games that were in Dragon Magazine or make those?
I played one of them, and I guess the one that's coming in number 9 is the predecessor to Snit's Revenge, which I think I played once. I guarantee those games and magazines with them still in it are like impossible to find, still complete.
Yeah,
But
that's sort of the
I would
tragedy of board games in a magazine.
Yeah.
I would be
In the back of
I'd be
the
willing to try printing up a bunch of the different games that are going to come out and give them a try. Just because I have so many of the pocket games and the mini games and whatever you call them back in the day.
You could probably submit that to Board Game Crafter and just have them made. Although I don't think the cost, a prototype might be more expensive than you really want to do.
Yeah,
But snits and stuff is kind of fun. It'd be great for a con. I would do that if I was going to intend to take it to a con and do it.
Oh yeah,
I remember playing
I know that would be
the Green Slime game at Origins in Columbus. That was just do that table and just laid out the old board game, the Green Slime game. I forget the name of it. The Attack of the Green Slimes, or
I know that. I think it was Attack of the Green Slimes or the big green. I'm gonna double check.
it was ridiculous. It was ridiculously fun, is what it was. Then I wouldn't play much about that.
yeah. I'm eyeballing a couple of
Here we
copies
go.
of Lankmar.
Here we go. Was it the Awful Green Things from Outer Space by Tom Long?
And that's it.
Is that a mini game? Because I think I have
The
it.
board
It
game.
is. It got released. It got released by Steve Jackson later on after the
Yeah,
test
That's,
version.
okay, that's what I have.
It was fun.
And yes, it was directly inspired by the movie The Green Slime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Enough of Gamma World, I guess. You know what? The reevaluation of gems and jewelry by Kuntz. This gets done every 10 issues? Every 10 issues, they revisit gems and jewelry and stuff for your games. You could have a limitless chart. But what I don't see in a lot of modern games, you don't see the 75 gold piece and 125 gold piece gems as much as you did in early D&D.
Damn, that is weird.
I'm just sorry. I'm distracted by the Dracula and Vampire Woman, which is actually Vampirella, and I do have those minis. I do have the Dragon Nudes. Oh yeah.
Nope, not right.
There's one in here with a dragon with 6 legs holding a sword. I don't think I've ever seen a dragon mini holding a sword. I'll double check to that.
Our archive was famous for making miniatures of characters they had no rights making them. And I've got almost every archive mini, and I know the guy with the mold, so I'll never run out of Vampirella miniatures or have you guys ever seen the Star Wars set with the stormtroopers with the rabbit ears and things like that.
Yeah.
I've got them all,
Nah.
and that was tough putting that collection together. And someday, if my son is smart, he will either have them recast or he will sell them and pay his way into college.
Yeah, these gems later on, some of these gems are moved up in value, and you never see like a star sapphire for 150 gold or emeralds. This is a
Right.
pretty low value. The jewelry, you don't hardly ever see bronze jewelry in games listed. I do it a lot because I think it's the most. It's easy to work with.
You know what? I've always wondered why they don't do or never did. Okay, you know whenever you see pictures of treasure and gems, the gems are like the size of golf balls or gumballs, right?
Right.
But
There's
here on Earth, one gem the size of a golf ball would be freaking unbelievably valuable, right?
not in its raw form because you have to cut it down to
No,
make it.
I mean cut. I mean a cut gem the size of a jawbreaker.
Yeah, a
Is
lot of the gems you're going to be finding as an adventure will be uncut. So they're going to be like a little semi-precious thing almost the size of your palm or a diamond that's rough, but it's got to be cut. That 100 gold piece diamond you got hasn't been cut to make it 1,000 gold piece diamond yet.
what I'd like to see is like a size, because whenever we see gems in modern or even
They're tiny.
they're microscopic. You could sneeze and lose it. And I would like to see like just for starting out with like say a dime size, to just use coin size, to give an idea of how big this gem is by value, versus
That really only matters if you're really pushing hard into your encumbrance system. And in Dragon, I haven't been doing encumbrance at all for gems. So gems are like highly prized because you're going to carry like 300 coins where it gets heavy, but limbs just load up your pouch, Kind of like the gems from Goonies. When you unload that pouch, and they're all just like, oh my God. You guys have any other things you want to talk about on the jewelry and gems?
It's kind of old.
I mean,
I kind of want to get to Brian Bloom's. I kind of want to get to Brian Bloom's realism D&D because
Yeah.
yes, the infamous Brian Bloom, and trust me, I don't love half the shit he did. This at the very least is actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, it came in really handy for playing villains and vigilantes, where you literally played yourself, and you needed to be able to rate your own stats. And ever since then, I've always thought about that. When I meet people, it's like, 8 wisdom, stuff like that. Which, if you noticed in here, speaking of wisdom, to determine wisdom, calculate the average number of hours you spend playing D&D or working on your D&D campaign in an average week. Subtract the resulting number from 20. This is your wisdom.
Yeah,
And
it's
his
like
own
kind
wisdom.
of wink nod.
His own wisdom ends up being 19, meaning he spends a mere hour a week either prepping or playing. What?
He's making a
Well,
joke.
it was the business. Person.
I get it, but
The joke being that the joke being that if you're playing D&D, you are not a wise individual.
No, if you're playing 40 hours a week,
yeah, I got a negative score.
you got a negative. I run 5 hours, and I probably don't do more than 2 hours a week now on prep. So that's what, 12? I have a wisdom of 8.
Yeah, I
-1 on saves versus magical attacks. I could see it. I'm not very wise. I make a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah, my score is definitely in the negatives if that's the case. But another thing, I was just telling somebody a while ago, in Villains and Vigilantes, when you roll up your skills, one of the results is game designer / bum.
You too can be a hunter. Here it is.
Oh yeah.
Forge. Fantasy Forge has the dragon with 6 legs holding a sword.
2 swords.
and the elementals are like they dialed it in, right? It's the most basic.
I actually have those elemental miniatures, and maybe that thief, but I've never seen the dragon
That
or
track
that
is ridiculous.
winged thing. But I had the girl on the cat, and I had the winged dude on the far left. But yeah, I've never seen that dragon ever, and
Dragon Tooth miniatures, Rhino Riders.
that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Dragon
I,
Tooth. I
this is
never.
definitely the flavor of fantasy I really go for.
The
Not just
EPC.
hobbits and orcs, but also like riding on weird animals and babes and elementals and crazy crap like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
that
Dragon
dragon is
Sword
just
Pedal Throne.
goofy. That dragon is just goofy. I've actually got four the grenadier, I think, elementals that were the first thing my son painted, and he did a pretty good job. And he was like 4 years old. They're right there.
Nice. Yeah, I'm to teach him.
Yeah. And this featured creature, I'm going with salamander. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it looks like a
Same.
salamander, but we have to find out next issue, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because people are sending in, this is a name the monster contest with
Yeah.
coupons for this and Relpartha, and I'm pretty sure this is one of the earliest. Actually, no. Has Otis done art so far? I want to say he has.
77.
Earl Otis, because I know he went from Beauty and B season, something like that, and then he moved on to TSR proper.
70, it's a 77, 78, so I don't know.
Mhm.
I haven't seen him given any.
Well, he must have because he was working with Dave Hargrave on the Arduin Grimoire in '77 or '78. I think.
But yeah, this is just about the time where he's completely hired.
It's a good picture.
It is. I like it. I'll be copying it. I'll be using the snippet tool to add it to my fantasy images for a creature. I don't picture salamanders with a barbed
Tail.
ending like that, but I mean, later on in Dragon, we're going to come across some of my favorite early AD&D modules, and there's one, and it's packed with salamanders. The dwarf temple one, where it's all lava, and every one of the salamanders has a magical item. There's like 30 of them.
It has a magic what?
Huh?
Every salamander has a magic what?
Item.
Oh,
A magical weapon or a magic item. And the lava is underneath the temple. So they do hit and run tactics, and they use their magic items based on their intelligence as a salamander. And they're salamanders, which means they're tough. I can't remember if there's 16 or 30, but there's a lot of them. When we get to that dragon, I will spurg out on that module because it is a party killer. It's fun. It has some gonzo in it with a few things, but everything is, it's a ruined temple in the mountains on top of a volcano, and it is packed with salamanders whooping ass.
Bring your ice weapons.
This is AD&D 79, so yeah, not a lot
yeah,
of
being destroyed. Never saw it.
It's a rough one. There's also one of the first introduction of the beholder, and that's another TPK one that will kill parties. That will kill parties it's designed for if they're dumb, because it has an intelligent beholder who floats over lava and has a bunch of gargoyle minions who fight inside his cone of anti-magic.
We actually lost some high-level PCs on my Saturday night game a few weeks back to a beholder, and they're definitely on one of my least favorite monsters lists now.
They're amazing, dude. They're amazing. The Labyrinth Lord version is actually just as bad because instead of an anti-magic ray, it's got a petrifying cone weapon. So a cone of petrification.
Yeah, but nothing's gonna make a bunch of whiny players freaking spurg or rage quit than their favorite magic item being disenchanted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I don't really run disenchanters, but anti-magic ray doesn't disenchant most magic items. But going by the rules of AD&D, all potions that cross an anti-magic ray are screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, Member versus Alpha monsters, which you can Also used for Gamma World and D&D if you're feeling nasty.
Yeah.
And I am.
Proxima.
Some of these things were crazy.
Like,
What was that one that does like 8 dice damage? Like, holy shit!
red
8d6
puffball
for a.
fungus,
Yeah, it
the
was the cat. It
poison,
was the cat, I think.
Yeah.
the tiger one,
Weird.
yes.
Yeah. Oh dear God.
When you may give it a weird name, you know it's going to be bad.
Yep.
I
One
also
I'm particularly fond
experienced
of.
poison thorngrass.
What I'm
9,000.
particularly fond of is the island plant. This could be a night session all of its own. It's a gigantic plant creature with a beak, but it looks like a 300-yard jungle. The food's poisonous. There's poison thorns and sword bushes everywhere, and it's slowly trying to kill you so it can eat you, and it can generate force fields.
Yeah, and a variation on the Triffids on the Stalkers. They make a variation
Oh
Triffid.
yeah, you can definitely tell that someone on the Metamorphosis Alpha and Gamma World team liked their John Wyndham.
Yeah, if you had a hard time making up your own monsters and you're flipping through Dragon, this just gives you nothing but ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you want plant creatures. Plant creatures are usually not that big a deal beyond like what the Stranglevine and a few others and molds.
Sure.
And then the mutated animals are Boloroid. The names are killing me. And the Rabner mutation with the rabbit.
This is your next heavy metal album band name, Mountain Gorilloid.
Mountain Gorilloid. I had cybernetic gorillas in one of my OSE games, and that thing just murdered everybody.
Wouldn't be Pulp Fantasy without the apes, man.
Yeah.
Four-armed cyborg ape.
The Ravner. This mutation was a rabbit until it lost its legs and head to mutational change. What
And now it has
are you
tentacles.
smoking?
Honestly, and I'm not gonna lie here, reading through some of these was actually genuinely disturbing.
They're
So
fun.
this little puffball with like tentacles that reach out and grabs you, it's like, holy fuck.
Yeah, they do like the tentacles a lot in these, man.
It's just part of the genre, dude.
Naughty tentacles, and a lot of psionics, a lot of sonic plants and bunnies.
Oh yeah, there's so much psionics in these games, the sci-fi games. Also, the
so many mutational powers. Holy crap! The Warden, telepathy, telekinesis, mental defense shield, will force, mental control over physical states, heightened brain talent, and it's a scientific genius.
Yeah,
that's how the game was played, man. I mean,
I know, but dang.
That's what a lot of TV sci-fi was like at the time. You'd travel from planet to planet or tribe to tribe, and there's this, terrifying higher, or thinks it's a higher being with all these psychic abilities, and you gotta outsmart him.
Yeah. I'm thinking photon grenades.
Photon grenade. Thermite! How about we just go back to the ship and bomb it from orbit?
I was about to make that exact reference. It's the only way to make sure.
I want to make sure.
And then on the next page, we've got the lead up, or one of the first pieces of lead up to Snit's Revenge, and this is Tom Wom's art right here, as we've seen in past issues. But it's a bunch of these blobby amoeba-looking gods. One of them creates a planet. They get excited. Ooh, let's put this here. Hey, stop filling out the world. I'll put in some things. And then he comes back eons later with water and land and clouds, and of course, what they decide to do, roll some bones. So obviously this is a little bit of a satire of like the DM who's a little bit too attached to his world and the players that are a little bit too excited.
It's cute. I'll give it that. It is definitely cute.
I also appreciate the spooky what's next. So this is absolutely gonna continue into the next issue, and then we're gonna get Snit's Revenge.
Yeah, there was an ad for another game store that I'd been to in Cal. Oh, The Last Grenadier. We passed it, but I've actually been there a million times, and that's the location I almost beat Patton Oswalt's ass.
Fuck Patton Oswalt.
Fucking hate that guy. That guy's.
You think he was the nerd's nerd, and then I see these people who talk to him, have to work with him, and like he's terrible.
He's a pedo. He's a chobum.
Yeah, he's got that.
As soon as his wife died, he went to another woman. So likely he drove that woman to death.
He's still a pedo.
Yes. Oh, I didn't try to say this is much worse. This is in addition to.
In addition to, yeah, anything else is not even. It's just like it's the worst.
Once you cross this barrier, you are not
Yeah.
okay. You are.
There's only one thing worse than a pedo, and that's a necrophilic pedo. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty fucking evil.
How about this game Suspicion, the precursor to How to Host a Murder Mystery?
Yeah.
Weren't those a thing
I,
before?
I could totally get into this on like a regular like. We used to have a place out here. It was a restaurant that did this. You got dinner and a murder. Uh, Having just rewatched Murder by Death, and I'm halfway through The Cheap Detective, I'm like, oh god, we got to bring this back. We got to bring this back.
I do like them. The wife is not a fan, so we don't go do those.
Really?
She's kind of stuck in her ways about stuff. She wants to go. She wants to be an observer, not a participant. She's an introvert. Yeah, I still love her. Yeah, she's an introvert, and
Yeah, well, she can still tag along and be your, your extra pair of eyes and ears.
Yeah.
Trust me. Once you and her like solve one of the murders, dude, she'll be hooked.
no, I don't know, dude. She doesn't like watching mysteries with me in the living room because I'll be like 5 to 10 minutes in most modern stuff. I'm like, that's the guy. Bam, because they're just so poorly written nowadays. And when you grew up reading Agatha Christie and watching and real detectives, with the modern stuff is just they're playing off of it, or they're going for tropes, or they're so busy pushing the message that once you see the message people, they're not the guilty party.
It's even worse than wokeism, as shocking as that is to say, though again, that's a part of it. It's that so much, and they've actually admitted this for stuff like Riverdale, which should not be surprising, is that media is written now, so you can be surfing on your phone, look up, and still follow the story.
Yes.
I just saw a meme or something like that, where it was about something that you could literally watch it while you were on your phone.
I do that, dude. Like, we watch Real Trent, and I do like Real Trent. But we're watching it, and I'll look up and go, it's this. This is how. And she's like, stop it. Just enjoy the show. And I'm like, it's just predictable. I mean, I like it, but it's still predictable. And this kills me. I'm just hoping to find a cop drama or a detective drama that makes me think. And I haven't seen one since, like, Perot.
Yeah, I think like 10 years back, it was revealed that music used to be written at a 5th grade level, and then it was a 4th grade level.
Yeah.
And by now, I've seen better lyrics, admittedly, but I do think if something's not been done, which that's probably very likely, it probably is now at a 3rd grade reading level. And pretty soon, toddlers and babies will be able to write music. And this is why you don't want psychologists and mathematicians as producers.
I can see that. But at one time, we the standard, I think, was 11th grade reading material, and
at least 12.
Low collegiate for technical and actual thought-provoking pieces.
I got a question sorry. Eldrad, North Texas RPG Con. I would love to do that. And you said it's a box board game, Revolt on Ontario's Vampires and some alien invasion. Yeah, I've got most of those, but what are you referring to? The game that's in the next magazine?
Yeah, I just opened the next magazine.
And yes, Eldrad, I'd be absolutely down for Gamma World sometime.
Yep.
The article about the Big Fencer. Yeah, the next one's going to be dominated by that damn story again. But it's got.
I will say this.
But I don't want to.
Despite, we can skip it if you guys aren't loving it.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not skipping it. It's sequential for a reason. Plus, there's a good article about Tunes and Crypts by Ward. So.
Oh yeah, I would definitely not skip an issue. Maybe skip an article.
No, I meant the story. I don't mean the issue.
Okay. It's because this is even. It has less meat than this one, to be honest. But we can make it work.
I'll at the very least be saying, despite it being rather thin and a lot of it's taken up by that story, um, I actually do really like this issue. At least the really good stuff it's got. Like, I appreciate the build up to Snits. The new monsters are nice. The Taste of Gamble World is nice. I got a chuckle at Blooms. Um, the article on town building is sublime. I'm not sure if I'd spend, let's see how much this was back then. Yeah, eh, if it was $1.50 nowadays, I would have bought this in a heartbeat. But um, I'm not sure I'd spend like $5 or $6 on it. But like, this is something I'll definitely bring if I sit down to, run a game someday. This is where, okay, I'm going to design the town here. The sections are going to be here. I'm going to make sure these mundane services are available. I like it.
Yeah. At one time, subscriptions were the way to go, and when you had subscription service to magazines, it made it so much cheaper. Nowadays, not so much, because you can't find magazines less than $8 to $16 a piece.
Yeah, and now they want you to pay up front for everything they haven't even printed yet. Yeah, they can pound sand.
Well, there are still magazines working on the old subscription models. I'm a huge horror fan. Fangoria still does it, and More Magazine.
Is Starlog still a thing?
Huh?
Is Starlog?
I'm not. I was never a big science fiction magazine guy. I remember, when did Fantastic Journeys finally peter out? Because I remember reading that in the 80s.
Yeah. I read almost all of them, along with like Creepy and Eerie and Vampirella and all the comic books I got.
Aurelius Press is still making stuff. That's modern. And they're making pulpy science fiction.
I know that Titan brought back Savage Sword of Conan with new stories, and that run's doing really good.
Yeah. I've been meaning to pick up the Aurelius Press stuff. I don't know. I just haven't. I always end up going broke and spending money on other stuff. It's like I was going to go to VentureCon, but now I'm not, because I'm taking grandkids to the state parks more often. So all the grandkids trumped all the cons for me immediately. I was like, you know what? Nah. I'd love to go back to Origins, but Origins gotten pretty gay. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just not worth it. Have fun at the parks, man.
Yeah. Unless it's a smaller con, the big ones, Gen Con, all those silver badge, whatever they call them, they got totally just screwed by the whales who bought all the silver and gold.
Yeah.
I mean, the gold and platinum. It's like, if you're not going to go platinum or whatever the highest tier is, don't even bother going, because you will not get in the game. You won't get the free stuff, and you basically just pay to go shopping.
Yeah. Origins used to get swag by just showing up. I got the Origins dice every time I went, and it used to be. I actually preferred Origins when it was more wargaming. When it was a pure wargaming con, it was a lot more fun. People were a lot more friendlier. The games took forever, but it was just wargaming Nirvana, and now it's board game and gayness. Is what it is. Yeah. But the only ones I consider going to now are probably ClearCon, VentureCon, and North Texas.
Yeah,
we have a local GoGoCon I don't even go to.
Whoa! You have to add in ShadowCon, because I will be doing that. I don't know when. I don't know how.
ShadowCon down in Atlanta. Is that the Atlanta one or a different?
No, that's the one I'm going to be running in Texas.
Oh. They not already have the name. I'm just saying.
I'll do it anyways.
Or was that Dragon? Atlanta's Dragon Con, but there used to be a ShadowCon.
Well, they can suck it. What are they going to do? Sue me? Finding me, It's a con, By the time what are they going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought about going over to GoGoCon here locally and running Wretched or something, but the last time I tried to do something through Goblins, I didn't get any sign-ups. There's no one's into the OSR locally, so.
I absolutely have to get to a ClearCon, and I absolutely have to get to a VentureCon.
Make Canada a state, do not go up to ClearCon.
I've got a lot of friends up there now.
Alberta's
I could see the western half going, in Ontario and Quebec being Ontario and Quebec, and just being Canada. That's all the cheese stands alone, right?
Yeah, I haven't heard that in so long. There
Well,
are so many people.
I mean, their national identity right now is we're not American.
Which, granted, at least they have a national identity for now. On the other hand, that's not really a great leg to
It's not a
stand.
really good business model, and I I only know of like one or two Canadians who don't want to join the U.S.
Yeah.
I join.
Ones are
I'll do the
committed.
same.
So
I'll say it. I like. I've got qualms with the states right now, but honestly, better economy.
yeah,
Better
less
culturality,
taxes.
Better
less
weather.
taxes. Yep. Well, if we're American, we're still gonna have weather up here. But yeah, it'd be nice if I could. Like, to be perfectly blunt, and I'd probably get there, and I may not like it. I wouldn't mind living in like Kentucky or North Carolina or Virginia, so I can be closer to bees and Ron. And well, it'd be nice if I was closer to you, but that's probably not going to be a
Ron never
possibility.
leaves the house. I hardly ever leave the house.
Fair, but I still wouldn't mind hosting you guys on the weekend or coming on down for a war game. You follow?
Fair, fair, yeah. I'm getting out of the house more on weekends and stuff, but
Good man.
I just when I deal with people. Oh God, I guess where I get ready. Ugh. I got the homeless crossing the street again instead of dealing with me.
I didn't know you were in Canada, Tanner. That makes one more.
Thank you, thank you. Oh no, I do want to join the states.
Oh
Does-
no, no. I mean, I didn't know you were in Canada. That makes one more friend in Canada.
Yeah, that's
Well,
Bear, him, and Justin.
I mean, most of us are pretty decent
Bear,
people.
Sean.
The problem is that we've got tons of crazies, and our leadership is less
Father
than
Aaron.
perfect, and our cultural identity has been in the sink for ages. Like, I'm gonna be perfectly fucking blunt here. Um, Back in like the 6 years or so, there was a lot of talk about us starting up a nuclear power program because it'd save us a lot of money. And look who went and squashed that idea and cost us billions. Oh right, Trudeau the senior.
Yeah, yeah,
And now, if we were to start nuclear power, it's like, sure, there's never, and save us a ton of money and natural resources. Okay, sure, it's better than never. But then, we're run by complete incompetence. It's tearing itself apart. Like, do you trust these guys to open up a nuclear power plant? It began a world for real, with less
yeah.
superpowers and more dying.
I'm going to end stream since we're done talking about the magazine, and we can chat a little bit. But yeah,
Well,
next Thursday, next issue,
number 9 with that cool sci-fi cover.
your cool sci-fi crossover with the weird arms and more stories. We'll make it work.
But there's at least varied player characters and non-player character alignment in D&D campaigns. So
That is going to be a deep read because I read that article before, and it is contentious. That is a contentious thing. Do you allow a variety of alignments in your game? Because it will always lead to problems, especially if that one player is, because one player says that's exactly what my character would do. Why'd you let me play chaotic neutral?
perfect counter argument to that. Perfect counter argument to that. If that's what your character would do, play a better character.
Well, yeah. I'm trying